Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, happy campers. Rise and shine. Don't let the bed bugs bite. All right, here we are. L'chaim, l'chaim. Got myself some water here. My cat Mila has been feed, fed. How is everybody? How is everybody this beautiful brunch on this lovely day? It is October 12th, 2025. Yes. Can you believe we're already this deep into excuse me, gotta wake up here. I gotta warm my voice up. A sugar hangover. Ooh, do tell. That's the problem. Sometimes I haven't. I've woke up late and I haven't exercised my voice, so that's sometimes a problem when I start these streams. Oh, you got the Rich got the yard work done already. Good for you, Rich. Kay is making coffee. Deborah's having a good day. Well, Patricia finally got a notification. Thank God for that. Random's doing great. Oh, really? Where are you right now? Diane Keaton, what are you folks thinking? They say she had a medical emergency. A medical emergency. You know, maybe she had a heart attack. I know that the ambulance was called. One of the most common forms of death for seniors when it's out of the woods like this is choking, believe it or not. Choking is one of the number one causes. Heart attacks and choking. I don't know if it would have been wasn't she a vegetarian? Wasn't she like a California veggie? She was like free love hippie. I think her diet was extremely solid. And I know she didn't get any plastic surgery. That she got criticized for that, right? Because she didn't get a facelift. She was pretty natural type of gal. I would be surprised if she ate meat. I mean, she was pretty healthy. So my intuition, my gut instinct is going maybe choking. If you're talking about or an accident, slipping and falling, but would a slipping and falling cause that kind of reaction? I don't know. I'm leaning, and the fact that she died soon after, I don't know. We'll wait for the coroner's report, but they say there's no foul play. Happy Sunday. Cheech and Chong Monopoly with grown Oh my gosh, that does sound like fun. Do you get to have a piece of East LA? Born in East LA, yeah. Russian troops on Estonia's borders today. More posturing by Putin. They're taking polls now in Russia, and the people want Russia to get out of Ukraine, which makes complete sense. All of the propaganda in the world is not going to change people's opinions about that. So you guys know that now Hamas is saying they won't release the prisoners, that they don't agree to phase 2 because they want to have their own country. No. So that makes you wonder if the ceasefire is going to hold. So that's kind of interesting. A peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine. Good luck with that. That guy is so exhausted. I think the thing that happened with Trump is that he had to be approved for flying. You know, if somebody has health challenges, like the challenges that he's shown, you're 80 years old, and you've got cankles and venous insufficiency, then you're going to have to be approved for flying, maybe. And so maybe they wanted to see him before he took a major flight out of the country. That's my first hit on that about why Trump had to go in and see the doctor before flying to Egypt. I believe he's going to Egypt, which makes sense because if they're negotiating zone 1 of Oasis and what we think is going on, then they would have to then it would be a good idea for them to meet in Sinai, right? If you're asking somebody to give up part of his land as a place for Gazans to live during the rebuild, then it's probably a good idea that they do that. So, so I think the reason why Trump went to the doctors, to Walter Reed, is because he's flying. And if it was your grandpa, excuse me, or my grandpa, we would want them to be approved. And so Trump has to get over to, what's that going to look like? Whoa, that's huge. Trump has to get over there to deal with this. So this is what the end goal is, right? Is this the end goal? Yes, maybe, sort of. The end goal is to get to a rebuild of Gaza that's based on Bedouin principles that can unite the Bedouins that are Jewish, Bedouins that are Muslim, Bedouins that are Christians, through this concept known as the Abraham Accords. So what does Trump have to do? He has to get to Gaza, he has to get to Egypt. And why does he have to get to Egypt? Because Zone 1, initially a humanitarian zone in Rafah or North Sinai with emergency medical clinics evolving into a cultural hub. So that is, right now everyone's been pushed into Rafah. It's not enough space, so we need him to open the gate for Zone 1. You can see multiple zones. What Trump calls zones is now calling zones of peace. I don't care, but it's really, they're oasis zones. Here's the numbers. I'm glad this is nice and big. You guys can read. I love that you guys come on here and see the future and nobody knows how you know it. And you just say, a little bird told me. Oh, he's going to Gaza. Oh, he went to the hospital because he needed to be approved for his flight to Egypt. Oh, he's going to meet with El-Sisi. They're negotiating a trade deal, right? You've seen the future. AI-driven vetted. You've seen the 20 points. You saw the 20 points 2 years ago, didn't you? Because you're smart like that. You are smart people. You are very, 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 very smart people to have found yourself in this situation. They say there's nothing such as so far, there's not such a thing as a coincidence. But for whatever reason, you're one of the 0.1% that's looking at the original documents. So that's cool, right? That makes you special. I always want the people that watch the channel to feel that they're special. This is the subway line they're putting in. Whimsy, you made a deal with the devil. It's going to take a lot of money, folks. It's going to take a lot of money. Kindness, trade, safety, tolerance, and respect for nature aligned with Bedouin values, branded with making Bedouins cool again. Zone 1 is being negotiated right now between Donald Trump and President El-Sisi, humanitarian and cultural hub in Rafah and North Sinai, or we're also thinking about putting a pilot up in the Negev. The purpose will be initially a humanitarian zone providing basic needs, food, shelter, medical care for vetted Gazans post-Hamas, evolving into a cultural hub, preserving Bedouin and Palestinian heritage values, etc., educating students, and peace leadership. Initial phase. Sorry, still getting over this. Initial phase, third quarter 2025 in Rafah. We need 5,000 temporary prefab shelters. This is what they're bringing in. Clinics. Independent verification report is here on the numbers. Those were supplied to all parties involved. So what is Whimsy trying to do? Abraham's values, kindness, and hospitality provide urgent medical care reflecting Abraham's care. Evolved tolerance via interfaith education reduces Hamas's support to 10 to 15%. Environmental respect with solar infrastructure and safe trade via Max embody Abraham's tent. Zone 1 brief assessment. So what does El-Sisi get out of this? What does, if they're going to give up 450 square kilometers of land in North Sinai to house people while they literally drop a bomb on Gaza, which they have to do because there's 60 meters of tunnel with chemical weapons in them, and the chemical weapons have already gassed and killed people. They've literally got their goal was eventually to get an atomic weapon, but so everybody has to be taken far away because they're probably going to do some bunker busters and just destroy everything. So what El-Sisi, the president of Egypt, is going to get from all of this is he's going to get an oil deal because they're drilling off the coast of Gaza and he needs help and he wants access to some of those oil rights, working with the United States. So that money goes to Egypt and it goes to the United States and it goes to Gaza. It's, everybody's going to get a piece of it. The Gazans have to pay a third party to come in just to use the equipment to do the drilling off the coast. So regardless of who's in charge, even if it was a democracy, even though they're not capable of that right now with Hamas in power, they would be negotiating this deal because this is the only way they're going to get any oil out of that area is if they bring in somebody that has the equipment, whether it's the British Petroleum, which has also looked at drilling in that area, or the United States that wants permission to drill. In exchange, they'll pay a percentage to Gaza. Part of it's in Gaza, part of it's in Egypt, part of it's in Israel, right? So everybody wants to work together to get this oil deal. So the other thing is that El-Sisi is about to have his ass kissed, right? Trump is going to be in Egypt talking about how El-Sisi is a saint. President of Egypt, you're the most incredible man in the world. We love you so much. You're a saint. What you are doing for the Gazan people. Yes, I am so wonderful. Meanwhile, he's agreeing to open the gate because Hamas has been separated from the people. The weapons have been taken away. And the area, and they're supplying their own, Egypt may supply some of the security. So this is money in the bank for Egypt, right? But Egypt was never going to open that border until they had securities that Hamas was gone. So that's the real story of why Trump is going to Egypt. And now you know it because you're special. Let's go ahead. We'll do the empath prayer. I just like to hang out and talk a little bit before everybody shows up. Looks like we have about 154 people here. So I think what we should do next is the empath's prayer. I think my voice is woken up enough. I'm on my first cup of coffee. I was up till 5 in the morning last night. I don't know about all of you. I love showing you guys these documents. I'll tell you why, because it's a real trip for me. It's a real trip for me to have literally thrown myself, that the remote viewer threw herself into the remote. I mean, am I saying that properly? Am I describing that? You know, after October 7th, everybody was really upset. So my feeling was, this hell must come to an end, right? So the next thing I knew, I was downloading the rebuild of Gaza, right? So never underestimate how important you are, people. You know, you see a problem, and then the next thing you know, people in positions of power are listening to you. And that's a really great feeling. You know, it means that good things are coming, right? Good times are coming, said Whimsy. Promise, Whimsy? I promise. So trauma can go on for generations, can't it? You know, I'd like to see a rebuild in Negev, also near Beersheba, which is where Abraham put his first tent. And this is where many of the people of Gaza originally come from. Many of them are actually from Beersheba. And we've got so much land that's not being used that we could be using to build oasis zones, kibbutzes of understanding and peace. Everyone benefits. We must learn to live together, right? Even if we don't always like each other, even if we don't agree with each other. I requested 500 troops. They're giving me 200. Coordinate with Egypt for aid and hostage talks and maintain buffer zones. $10,000 troops during the actual move. U.S. are probably going to be brought in. Well, there won't be any weapons anymore, so it's not going to be a war. It's just helping with migration of people after the war. Integrating 1 million families, one state, right? Everybody equal. That is the goal. Yeah, they're doing it. They're doing it. But you know, you've always got some idiot in the crowd that wants to make trouble. And that's what Hamas is. They're the idiots in the crowd that want to make trouble. You were up till 4, Sybil? Oh my goodness. Feels like everything in life is getting worse, says Jess. I hope not. What is really going on with the chemtrails? They don't exist. There are no chemtrails. It's just exhaust coming out of planes, and part of it is condensation. There is no evidence of that that's real. There's no independent verification of anything like that is real, but it's a hell of a story. It doesn't make any rational sense, but oh, I'm glad. I'm glad, Audrey. I think that Trump's health, he's 80 years old, and I think that eventually he will have to step down. Um, he has some kind of a health crisis that forces him out, appears to be what the cards are saying. Lack of confidence from his cabinet, and it could possibly be due to mental deterioration. It's weird that he's saying he passed all 30 of the cognitive. Uh, well, the idea of an antichrist is not something that everybody believes in. That's part of the Christian faith. So you would have to ask a Christian, the expert in Christianity, whether or not he's the antichrist, because it's a terminology, a word and imagery that's not found in Buddhism or Judaism or Hinduism. This is specific to the Christians. So I don't know what constitutes an antichrist. Greta is the antichrist. You mean Greta Thunberg? Greta is young. Greta is a young girl who probably got picked on and wants to be special and wants to have friends and wants to make the world a better place. But she got picked up by Hamas, which is a ruthless terrorist organization, and took money from Hamas for the flotilla to make this big political stink. And there was no food on those flotillas. It was just, we're going to break the siege. We're not here to bring food. We're here to harass the Jews on Yom Kippur. So it made for a pretty picture, but they didn't bring any food to anybody. I think she'll snap out of it. I think that reality will eventually set in, and she will have to accept the fact that she got played by Hamas. But these are righteous feelings, to not want people to be oppressed, to not want people to be abused. It is honorable to feel that way. It's just that she's the useful idiot of Hamas, and yeah, she's young. She reminds me of myself. She hasn't spent any time in Israel or the Middle East. She has no idea what she's talking about. She's just getting all of her propaganda from Qatar, so she'll figure it out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the empath prayer. If anyone would like to receive a healing at this time, go ahead and give me your name or the name of the people you would like us to pray for, your loved ones, and we can include them in our prayers today. Before we get started, we also want to announce a new book of the month for our Book of the Month Club. It is Atlantis Falling, a novel by Adam Gabriel Steinmetz. Atlantis Falling, a novel by Adam Gabriel Steinmetz. That is our book of the month. And so if you want to find out about the fall of Atlantis, then he is your guy. His book is your book. All right, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead. We'll do the empath prayer. And like I said, if you'd like to receive a healing for yourself or those you love, please give us your names or the names of those you care for, and we will include you in our prayers. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and let's bring in the empath prayer. Great to see you all here. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps the algorithm. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic Records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen. And for those people today who are requesting a healing, we come together at this time and we pray. We pray that you and those you love receive a perfect healing in mind, body, and in spirit. And together again we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. May all souls be healed. May all souls be healed. Great to see you all here. Good to see you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and see what is in the news for all of us. All right, so this is a reading. All right, did I lose my audio? Somebody said I lost my audio. Can everybody hear me okay? Oh, I see what I did. Yeah, I think the audio was removed from that. Okay, so we'll have to do it this way. Okay, let's see what the week has in store for us. Let's see what the week has in store for us. I wish I could make it bigger for you guys. Huh, doesn't really let me do what I wanted to do. Okay. Hi, Wendy. What is going on? What does the future hold? Yeah, it's a rainy Sunday here in Portland. No one's going anywhere. We're staying in. I wonder why my vocals are so bad in the morning. Like, why can't we talk in the morning? I wonder why that is. All right, where we are at right now, we are entering into the time of the legacy. So the base of the matter is the page of the 10 of Pentacles. The 10 of Pentacles is a legacy card. It is our inheritance. If you're here in the United States, yeah, I did do vocal warm-ups, but I guess I just didn't do enough of them. A legacy is what you inherit. If you're here in the United States with us, if you're an American, then 10 of Pentacles, a legacy could be what the founding mothers and fathers fought for. Abigail Adams, John Adams, and everybody else, what they were fighting for, which was a pure democracy, right? A perfect union. So a lot of people sacrificed a lot in order to make the American dream real. And now you have strange people coming in like Peter Thiel that are turning it, that strongly believe it needs to be a dictatorship. He's openly said that. He basically wants everybody to be automatons. You're just a pawn in his game. That's the world. that Peter Thiel thinks is best, indoctrinated with his version of Christianity, right? So, but we have this inheritance, and we've inherited some great things if we're born American, but we've also inherited great burdens, things we shouldn't have done, things we should not be doing, right? The sword of truth is over our inheritance. So part of acknowledging our inheritance is we have to also acknowledge what the truth of the nature of our lives and the nature of what we've inherited. The page of swords, Archangel Michael, is the spy's card, right? He gets to the bottom of things. He's going to find out what's going on, right? We're going to find out what's going on with the truth of things. Oops, am I upside down again? Defending the land and defending one's position. So October is a month where people are fighting for what they think they're entitled to, inheritance, and we could be seeing more fighting in the land. I imagine that this is because we're right now smack in the middle of a government shutdown. These things never used to happen. Do people remember government shutdowns like this before Trump? I mean, I think anybody that encourages this type of dysfunction probably should not be serving in the US government, because you're here for us. We're on whatever side of the aisle you are, you should not be shutting down the government and putting people's lives at risk. You know, so we have this defending of the land, and then we have a reprieve, the Ace of Cups coming in, which is a blessing from the higher self. So if you yourself find yourself in the same situation where you're just defending yourself, defending against all these perceived attacks, something positive is coming. The crossing is the Eighth of Cups. That thing that comes to meet you is the Ace of Cups, which is love and blessings from the higher realm. And what is above you, the time of creativity and imagination and emotion. The Queen of Cups is the Queen of Hearts. We're also entering into a time of a desire for justice. The Queen of Cups, the emotional queen, she seeks justice, right? She wants, the Queen of Cups, why am I upside down? Oh, I did it again. I put these upside down. The Queen of Cups rubs her lamp in dreams. It's an emotional queen. So, I don't know. You know, when I look at this and meditate on it, I think this is a great time for artists, for people to take their emotions and to take their sensitivity and their creative nature and put it towards works or creation of things that are focused on justice and truth. I've been thinking of going back to my blog at the Times of Israel and writing more articles because of that. The wish, and then a heavy load lays ahead. You can have everything you want. You know, I believe you and I and all of us can have everything we want out of life, but what we must accept is the work. And a lot of the time we don't want to do the work. But 10 of Wands is a heavy load that lay ahead in our future, and it can be backbreaking. So, for example, if you want to have the most amazing garden in the world, it feels good to accomplish something. It feels good to build something positive like a garden. But what we also have to understand is that it's backbreaking work. 10 of Wands is to carry a heavy load. The other thing with 10 of Wands is that I make sure you guys can see everything, but I also have a small table here. So, yeah, so we have our bases here, and we're coming into the 10 of Wands. So we're coming into a time of heavy work. Whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life will come with heavy work. Whether it's writing that book, you have been called to complete your legacy if you have incarnated into this world. So you probably should write that book. You probably should complete that work, but there's a very heavy load here. There's also the possibility that some of you could be moving. 10 of Wands can be packing up and literally leaving. Oops, wrong card. There's a great celebration upon us. This looks like armistice or peace. There's a great celebration that is upon us and good news that's coming for us. Despite everything that's going on in this world, despite the fact that there are hard times coming for you and difficult times coming for you, we pray that good times come to you. Opposition is the Knight of Cups, many opportunities, hopes and fears. Some of you are going to be traveling, and then the final outcome is don't commit to any house purchases. Don't commit to anything. Don't get married. If the Knight on the white horse comes, flee. So now is the time to be in good energy, peace, to be about your business, child, to write that great novel, to complete that great garden, to fight that good fight for justice, to plan that move if you are moving to another city or town. All of those things are good things to plan for and work towards. But because there is a Seven of Swords here, which is a thief card, and to flee like a thief, and a warning here, also the negative aspects of the Knight of Cups is smooth operator or seducer. We have to be very careful at these times of false promises and seductions. Very creative time for many of you. Many of you are recommitted to your artistic, creative pursuits. Unbelievable creative energy coming in for you for the next couple of weeks, and the creation of new projects, which will be incredibly beneficial to you. A new beginning awaits you. But the Empress is all that creativity. Honestly, my feeling, if I were to give you guys a reading based on this, the collective is saying, recommit to your own convictions, your own work, your own art, your own creativity, and don't expect anyone else to save you. Don't get into any serious committed relationships of any type. That includes buying property at this time. If someone's selling something, it's probably too good to be true, whether it's a relationship, a used car. And instead, this is a time for you to focus on your own creative accomplishments. And if you do that, if you put 110% into your own goals and development without relying on anybody else, then you will do very well in the coming months. And these will be productive times for you. That is the general reading. Yeah, a lot of y'all are farming, I think. Praying for the Israeli hostages. A survivor of the Nova Festival killed himself Friday. Does everybody know what the Nova Festival was? Does everybody know what Deborah is talking about? Because I've noticed that a lot of people don't know what Deborah and I are talking about. Deborah and I have these conversations, and people seem to be confused and not know what she's saying or what I'm saying. So I just want to make sure everyone understands what we're talking about. There was a music festival that happened. It was on October 7th, which coincided with Vladimir Putin's birthday. And a large group of terrorists came in with like jetpacks. They flew over the wall that had been created to protect Israelis from these people, not because we were trying to wall anybody in, because we're evil, awful Jews, which is the running belief amongst, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, many liberals, and I'm a liberal. I should clarify that I'm pretty liberal. But Qatar has done a real number on brainwashing people about, and rewriting history. And I think a lot of young people are very confused about Gaza. But basically, the wall had been put up so that they could still exit. They could still come through they could still come through the border. We had people coming in through the border every single day to come and work on the kibbutzes. They could also exit through Egypt. So there was this idea that it was a prison is not true. They weren't walled in. No, there was a wall around the border so that the only way to get in was to show your ID and come through the border. So there were two borders. There was a border with Egypt. You could leave through Egypt, which is the Rafah Gate. And then you could also leave through Kerem Shalom, which is one of the gates in Israel, and the Erez crossings, There were two Erez crossings. So there were three crossings on the Israeli side. And then there was a wall to keep terrorists. So the terrorists started digging tunnels. These are people who believe, part of their religion, that it's a death cult. They believe that if they want to die murdering as many people of the Jewish persuasion as possible, and it is a fundamental belief of theirs that if they kill Jews or die killing Jews, they will go to heaven and have 72 virgins. So Israel put a wall up so that we could make sure none of these freaks were coming in. And then they started digging tunnels underneath. And some of these tunnels were 60 meters underground. So this was the official government of the people of Gaza. The people of Gaza thought they were great. We love them. Kill more Jews. God is with us. Allah is with us as we rape more Jews, kill more Jews. So on October 7th, they invaded. There was a massive music festival. And in cold blood, they murdered something like 1,200 people. They just shot them, men, women, children, tortured them and raped them and shot them. And they drug off about 250 people. Most of the 250 they drug off died during the conflict. They didn't make it back. They either died in the tunnels or they died at the hands of Hamas after they were captured. But of those 250, we now have 48 remaining bodies in the tunnels, and 20 presumed still alive. So these people were kept, 60 meters underground in a hole, raped and tortured, and fed one piece of pita a day. And many of them starved to death, because that's what you get with chronic starvation. You get death. So one of the people that I believe watched his girlfriend get raped, is that correct? He was a survivor of the Nova Festival. I think one of the things he watched was people getting raped and killed in front of him. So what we're seeing in Israel is we're seeing a lot of suicides of the survivors. Survivor's guilt, people that every night they go to bed, they see these terrorists coming over the fence, raping their babies, raping their children, raping family members. So when you come onto this channel, you should know that you're coming onto the channel of an Israeli citizen. I am Israeli. And when you start talking about the poor, oppressed people of Gaza, et cetera, you should know that you really don't know what you're talking about. And I think there are a lot of people that come on here and they say what's ever politically correct, and you have no idea how much you are offending people who survived. People who we're still dealing with this in Israel, and the flippant way in which people on the left have been commenting about it is really pretty horrific. Because it's not your country and you didn't get invaded, and you're not dealing with, people just sobbing hysterically on the streets, mental breakdowns everywhere, going to bed every night thinking that their children are still in the tunnels being raped and tortured. And so Just know when you make flippant comments to me, just how sick and twisted and warped you look to those of us who are trying to survive this, that are trying to help those who went through this, survive this. So yeah, there's a lot of lies going on, and everything that Israel has been accused of is what Hamas did to us. And it's just important. The facts are finally starting to come out, but you have young people that are saying, I wish I had been a part of it. Like, I wish I'm going to protect Hamas. I'm going to, I want to join Hamas, anything for Hamas, and not realizing that what they're doing is that they're basically embracing terrorists that came and attacked our country and just men, women, and children randomly, and then accusing Israel of the same thing, and we're not doing the same thing. The horrible thing about Hamas is that they will use their own people as human shields. They will take over entire buildings in Gaza, and then they will fire rockets on Israel, bombs on Israel. If you're getting a bomb on you, you're going to do everything you can to intercept that bomb. And if the people of Gaza try to flee to get away from the bombings, they'll be shot and killed by Hamas, because that's who Hamas is. If they don't care about the civilians, they don't want a two-state solution. They don't want a two-state solution. You're fighting for something that they don't want. And that's what people have to realize. What they want is to kill all the Jews. And anything less than that is not going to make them happy. They want to murder Jews, kill Jews from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free of what? Juden rein, raus Juden. That's what they're saying. They're saying out. Here they are. From the river to the sea. Yes. So this is Hamas in Gaza killing Gazans. And the reason why I use this platform to keep talking about this stuff is because there are just a lot of really, look, when I was young, I was ill-informed. I was part of a peace walk from Britain to Russia. Peace now. I was totally into that stuff. So, and it's easy to just take American history and project it onto Israel. Well, a group of colonizers came, and no, that's American history. Arabic is not the indigenous land of Judea. You know that much, right? Where does the Arabic language come from? I think, comes from Arabia. So how did a language from Arabia wind up in Judea? The Arabs occupied the Jews. So who's the indigenous people? Right? So that 9th century. It's about 900 years after Jesus. So Jesus never met these people. Because because he was from Judea. He was a nice Jewish boy from Judea, right? Yeah, so they were the conquerors. They came in and conquered the Jews, and then they took over and they established Islam, and many Jewish people converted to Islam. So many Palestinians have Jewish ancestry, because you really don't have a choice when you're under occupation. If you don't want to be taxed and you want to live in peace, you're going to convert to Islam just so that you don't get to be harassed. And so yeah, there is this story that Abraham, who was actually Bedouin from Iraq, he had his children in Beersheba, and many of the descendants, many of the Bedouins we see today in Beersheba, we think could be part of Abraham. They could be Abraham's grandkids. And that's what's so wild about it. So, yeah, Abraham's tent, though, is kind of interesting. You can go and see it in Beersheba. The well is still there. So he bought a well when he was some guy. He was just some guy. No, he was a man. Like I said, he came with his family, and then he bought some land in what is now Beersheba. There was a well there, and the well, they were able to preserve the well. So isn't that crazy? The well is still there. That's his well that he and his wife Sarah were working at. This is basically their farm. So their farm is still there. This is the farm of Abraham and Sarah. And he had many girlfriends, as a rich man is apt to have. And so he had, all these kids. And some of them probably stayed and worked the land. And those became the farmers, the Bedouins that you see in that area. Could, in fact, be his descendants, which is beyond cool. I just think that's so, so cool. And then we have Beersheba University, Ben Gurion University in Beersheba, which teaches Bedouin studies. And nobody gets back to me. Boy, I've tried, I just gave up. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a kibbutz that we were able to establish in this area for displaced Gazans and Israelis, that they could come together and rebuild the tent of Abraham. Yeah, I had to block somebody because I had put something up about in memory of all those people who had been murdered during the Nova Festival. And it's the anniversary, and it tore us to we're never going to get over this. Never mind the people whose families directly were involved, but just average Israeli citizens, we're never going to get over this. And I put something up remembering those who had passed, because they had done a very nice display where it was just the chairs. It was just the chairs. And it was just the chairs of those who'd been slaughtered and raped and murdered on October 7th. And somebody said, oh yeah, what about 67,000 in Gaza? And it was, of course, somebody who, like most of these idiots, didn't know what they were talking about, but that's okay. And this person had forgotten to calculate terrorist with guns. That, if you're looking at 40,000 dead terrorists, how many are terrorists and how many were victims? How many were human shields? How many were people that had just been used as human shields? So in Colombia, we had already gone through hell after October 7th. We're still in hell until we get our hostages back. And then to be harassed on college campuses as Jews, I was harassed. I called the FBI. Was the most brutal, cruel thing you could do to people after that incident.
Hi, I'm Izzy Lyons, and I am here with Columbia SSI. And here we've put 1,205 chairs commemorating the deaths of the victims of October 7th.
Now, standing here 2 years later, on a campus that's been ridden with protests and political unrest and so much division, the silence in this installation really speaks volumes.
It's all to remember the wonderful people around me. Remember Barnash, remember Most, who I served with personally.
Seeing each of these 1,200 chairs really underscores the sheer magnitude of all the lives lost on October 7th.
Just had lunch, and I'm walking outside throughout the campus on College Walk, and I hear a helicopter, and I'm wondering what's going on. And I thought maybe there was another occupation of the lawn, but instead it looks like I am standing in the midst of 1,200 souls who were lost, and I think I'm just still kind of processing the weight of every individual chair where someone should still be here and able to sit in, but they're not.
I think it's very important to do a quiet type of demonstration to show what happened in October 7th, almost 2 years ago. I think it shows to the people who don't really understand what happened, what actually happened, and what's the scale of it, because I know a lot of people, mostly from TikToks and Instagrams and whatever, they don't really know the facts. And I think this is really showing them this is the scale. We have 1,200 chairs with pictures, with names that can be attached to real people that were murdered. And one of them is also my dear friend Libby Cohen Meguri. She was a really good friend of mine in the army. We served together a couple of years.
So many names, so many people who could have had entire stories, could have changed the world, were taken away in an instant.
A part of me also feels this overwhelming feeling of anger a bit. Every single one of these chairs, every single person that was lost that day 2 years ago is a soul worthy of life and worthy of honoring. Yeah, I can't believe it.
I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the importance of doing this on Columbia lawn, specifically in front of Butler Library, where the encampment stood 2 years ago. And I think that the encampment was a place filled with hate that really breeded the worst of society. And I think that standing here today in a peaceful memorial where we remember the beautiful faces of those we've loved and those we've lost.
And it's just been so heartwarming to see the community come together to set up this beautiful memorial and to see members of the greater Columbia community stop and take a moment and really take everything around them in. It's been really inspiring to be able to talk to people who are maybe learning about it for the first time today, and being able to raise awareness and just remember those important people who we miss every single day.
We're really showing that resilience is an important value, and we, the Jewish people, we, the supporters of Israel, we, the Zionists, are still here, we're still resilient, and we still love. And I think that that's just a really important message that we wanted to get across.
We need to make them keep on living. That's our objective. I'm taking it upon myself, and everyone should too.
I'm really appreciative for SSI for doing this.
It's important for us to never forget what happened that day, and this is exactly why Students Supporting Israel is active on Columbia's campus and campuses across the United States, because there needs to be a strong Zionist, pro-Israel voice on these campuses so that people understand what Israel is and why it is greatly important what we're doing.
I just wanted to say that because, you know, people come on this channel and you think you're being so righteous, you think you're being so holy, and you think you're going to teach me something about what happened and what went down. You've never been to my country. You've never visited our country. You're not Israeli. You've never even spent time with Palestinians. And I'm flying back and forth all the time between here and Israel, and I'm getting bombed. I've been bombed a couple of times when I've been there. And just know who you're talking to when you pop off on this channel, because I banned a couple of people, and I will ban many, many more if you disrespect the memory of those who died on October 7th, or you get your facts wrong about the Gaza war. It's not the policy of Israel to target civilians. So there's just a lot of disinformation. We're not trying to kill civilians. Well, everything they did to us, they lied and said that we were doing to them. And that's basically how propaganda works. Do I think that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure this never happens again. And would you kill terrorists in order to make sure that they never do this to your family again, that they never do this to your children again? Would you do that? And the answer is absolutely yes. Every single one of us would have done the same thing. We would have done everything in our power if it had been our daughter, our sons that went through this. So part of being a compassionate person isn't just that you're going to be politically correct because everybody's doing it. You know, everybody's taking a political stance, but there aren't many people that are taking a political stance about any of this that really have a clue what they're talking about. I mean, they really don't. And and if you're going to get involved in somebody else's politics, then you probably should know something about what's actually happening. And fact check, get your facts straight. Don't just read Qatari propaganda or Russian or Iranian propaganda that's being produced on TikTok. And I want to be popular. I'm going to be a popular person by thinking these popular ideas. And then, you know, if I have these popular ideas, what, you know, you would call virtue signaling, right? People who engage in virtue signaling where they just want to be popular. So it's the popular thing to do to say, you evil, bad Jews, how dare you go after the people that did this to your children? You know, how dare we respond to this? And that just goes to show how sick and insane the world is. We live in a sick world. We live in a very, very sick world. And, you know, if it doesn't, you know, and everybody seems, Israel can never win a war. We're not allowed to win a war. We're just expected to lie down and die and hold the position, Jews. We can feel sorry for you, but we can't allow you to be, you know, an empowered country. I have really strong opinions about it. We want peace. You need to put the gun down. You know, you need to stop, you know, your holy war to kill Jews. If that's your belief, if it's part of the doctrines of Hamas, right? This is the official government of Gaza. And so this is why you can't have, Gazans can't run themselves, because they were given a beautiful part of the world when Israel pulled out in 2005, and they turned it into a hellhole because this is their religion, to kill the Jews. It's part of their charter. And you can read the charter here. Islamic resistance movement, and they're going to look behind every tree and shoot every Jew. Yeah, as a Jewish person, I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. And if you were a Jewish person, you would want to be alive too. So if you can't live next door to somebody who's dedicated to killing you, who's so crazy, and so they want to die martyrs. They don't want a two-state solution. You're offering them something, they don't want to eat it. No, they want to kill all the Jews from the river to the sea. Allah will cleanse the land of Jews. It'll be Judenland. They're Nazis. They're directly correlates with Hitler. They aligned with Hitler during World War II. They embraced Nazi doctrines. Here is a copy of the charter, and I'm linking it for anybody that wants to take a look at that. Did y'all get a copy of the charter so you can see it for yourself? They don't want a two-state solution. That's why we don't have a two-state solution. They rejected the Oslo Accord. We were going to go live in the Negev and give them everything, and they said no. What they want is to murder as many Jews as possible. Kill all the Jews. No Jews, no news. So, yeah, can just read it. Don't really give us a choice. So if Hamas had surrendered and handed over the hostages, then Gaza would be in one piece right now. But they're not interested in handing over hostages. They're interested in killing Jews. That's that. Once you figure that, because they're going to go to heaven, right? So once you figure that out, then you get it. They worked really hard at it. I mean, they worked really hard at convincing people to. Let me see if I can find some of this. I probably could find it on YouTube, right? Have you guys seen the children's programming in Gaza? Well, that's what they say, is that they say that these children that you're looking at right now that were the money came from Iran and Qatar. And now those same people that paid for this indoctrination are paying for this indoctrination of young people on college campuses. So what we say is that all the kids you're looking at in these videos grew up and went on to participate in the massacres, and most of these kids are dead now. And that goes directly to Iran and Qatar. So Iran and Qatar did this to these kids.
دواء طيب اسمع يا صديقي في عندكم يهود صديقي يا قيس هسه لا طيب انا سمعت هم بيجوا عليكم كل يوم بس هسه لا طيب اسمع يا صديقي اعمل ايدك هيك المخيم لما يجوا عندكم اضربهم بوكس خلي وجهه بنضاره ان شاء الله عشان نحرر فلسطين ان شاء الله صديقي طيب على العموم يا روان انا بقول له يمسك حجر ولما يجي اليهود عنده يمسكوه وبوم
طبعا الجيران اليهوديين عندي
يطبش عليهم
لو كانوا يهود يعني جيرانه او صهاينه عادي. طيب ليش حابه تصيري شرطيه؟ ليش؟ زي مين؟
زي
عمه. مين عمه؟
احمد.
هو شرطي؟ شو بيسوي طب الشرطي؟
بحبس الحرامي واللي بيعمل مشاكل
وبطخي اليهود صح؟ انت بدك تصيري زيه؟ ان شاء الله لما تكبري.
لما طخ اليهود
كلهم؟ كلهم؟ طيب.
Okay, you want them, you can take them. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. Any questions? Okay, gotta close that up. Yeah, sometimes I just feel like I have to come on here and address certain things, and so Yeah, it's time we have to have that conversation again. Yeah. I will continue fighting the good fight for peace and deprogramming on both sides, but I don't think we have it nearly that bad on the Jewish side. But we do have the closest problem, I would say, is the ultra-Orthodox anti-Zionists that are marching with the pro-Hamas people. I don't think that we should continue to fund their kollels, fund their yeshivas in Israel. We shouldn't be paying them to learn to attack the state and join the enemy. I think that Israel needs to get smart about. We were too tolerant in Israel. We were too tolerant. We started paying for people to get educated in their schools to the destruction of the state of Israel, and that included ultra-Orthodox Jews. So we should cut their funding. That's my own feeling about it. All right, so moving on to the next topic. It looks like Diane Keaton has passed away. We do love Diane Keaton. She was an amazing person. We'll go ahead and do 4 cards on her. I think it was some type of, I don't know, I feel like maybe she had a choking incident or something like that, but I'm just going to throw 4 cards on Diane Keaton and see how she's doing. Yeah, I mean, if I were going to stay in America or living as an American, I feel the same way as an Israeli that I do as an American citizen, and that is you must strengthen your state. If you are a loyal American, you must do everything in your power to strengthen the state. And strengthening the state means a more perfect union. And anything that works against the union and is a threat to the United States, you don't need to be an American. The same attitude I have about America is the same attitude I have about Israel. The goal should be to make America the greatest country in the world. That should be your goal. And to uphold the Constitution. And if I were to translate it into what it is to be an American, it would be that we should not be funding and supporting our own destruction as Americans. We shouldn't be aiding and abetting in our own destruction, which is why Trump should have gone to prison after January 6th, because he was a threat to the nation. He was a threat to our democracy. And anything that's a threat to the state should not be tolerated if you love the state. So, and that includes harming American citizens. If you're cutting funds that go to protect the American people, healthcare, etc., then that's a threat to the state. So when we talk about strengthening the state and upholding the state, making sure that the state survives for future generations, we're talking about working to make America the greatest country in the world. The shining light on the hill, right? And the same is true as an Israeli. I feel that way as an American, and I feel that way as an Israeli. If you're not serving Israel as an Israeli, if you're not doing something, even if it's not the IDF, if you have to do something to protect and defend the state, and not to prop up and support people that want to take you out, And that's the problem with the Republic. That's why people reject the Republican Party, because they've been bought and sold by foreign governments. Just like Democrats shouldn't be bought and sold by Iran and Qatar when they start blabbering about genocide in Gaza and everything else, which is coming straight out of the dictatorships of the UN. The United Nations, probably should be dissolved, because there's such a strong lobby in the United Nations of dictatorships, voting dictatorships. So when they talk about, they're not talking about genocide in Afghanistan, against Afghanistan, the war on women in Afghanistan, which is ranked 148 out of 148 countries. They don't care because they're participating. Pakistan is 147. Horrific civil rights violations taking place against women, literally being held hostage. Purda. If you're being forced in your home and you can't leave, that's called a kidnapping. So how many women are basically being held hostage in Pakistan? You're 147 out of 148 in terms of human rights violations, and Israel is 21. Go home and take care of yourself. Or the Congo, or the horrific things that are taking place in Yemen or Somalia. 100,000 Christians have been murdered just because they're Christians in Nigeria. Nobody cares. That's why people don't believe in the UN anymore. No, they're just a bunch of Jew haters looking to kill Jews. Let's just keep it real. You know, you have an Arab lobby of something like 20-something, 30-something countries of Nazis. They're Nazis calling for the extermination of the Jews. And then, so of course they're going to say kill anything that's anti-Israel because they're basically Nazis. So that's why the UN has become a joke. Know your history. Like, know your history. That's what I say to people. Know your history. Y'all know that? Y'all know that Palestinians have a pact with Hitler? Y'all know about this?
Palestinian Arab nationalist and Muslim leader in Mandatory Palestine. He founded an anti-Jewish organization which culminated in the 1920 riots. For this, he was later pardoned and returned to stir things up again. He became the self-styled leader of anti-Semitism in the Arab world and inspired Muslims to attack Jews. In the 1930s, he sent praising telegrams to Adolf Hitler. He evaded capture by moving to Iraq and later to Iran. He later made his way to Germany, where he arrived at the end of 1941. In November, he met with Hitler. He was given a large villa in Berlin and was paid a lot. He also met Himmler and had contacts with Adolf Eichmann as well. He shared their virulent anti-Semitism. In the first half of 1943, he helped recruiting Bosnian volunteers for the SS Handschar. After the war, he got asylum in Egypt and passed away in Lebanon in 1974. Grand Mufti Amin al-Husseini was a Palestinian Arab nationalist and Muslim leader in Mandatory Palestine. He founded an anti-Jewish organization which culminated.
Yeah. Know your facts. All right. Let's take a look at Diane Keaton. Know your facts. Ooh, 4 of Cups for Diane Keaton. She was what I can say about Diane Keaton, the first thing I feel when I go into her energy, I don't want to take that medication. You can't make me take my medication. I am a stubborn old woman, and I'm stubborn in a way where I'm going to do things my way, and I'm going to refuse to do anything that I don't want to do. And if this is the woman who has the home nurse, and the home nurse is trying to get you take your medication for your heart. No, I'm done with that. No, this is a rebellious, non-compliant patient. So my first feeling when I go into this energy is that Diane Keaton was chronically ill at the time she passed and may have had a home nurse or some kind of medical treatment that was going on that required her to receive medical assistance in her home. And the other thing that I feel when I go into this energy is that she was argumentative or difficult towards the end of her life and may have been rejecting or refusing to take her necessary medications. Maybe she felt they were making things worse. So this is new information that I hadn't thought of, I hadn't seen. She was opposed to the Queen of Pentacles. This woman, it almost feels like Diane Keaton was fighting and refuting, no, I will not take my applesauce, right? It's that kind of, and this Queen of Pentacles, take your meds. And then, oh my God, now she's starting to have a reaction. I mean, I need to call the ambulance. I cannot handle this patient. That's what this looks like. I think she just wanted to be left alone, Diane Keaton. I think that she was very unhappy, and she may have had some kind of congestive heart condition, or her heart was impacted. I'm feeling the heart area. But we have here the images of refusing the drink, her being in opposition to the Queen of Pentacles. A dark-haired woman may have been her nurse practitioner. A fear of being abandoned, a fear of being in the cold, a fear of exile. So maybe she felt like, towards the end of your life, you often feel like you're alone. And then she has this cardiac event. The clarification over this, she felt a constriction in her chest area. The Eight of Swords, if you're looking at the physical aspects of the Eight of Swords, is that the person will often feel congestion in the chest. Constriction in the chest, I often get congestive heart failure with this type of a patient. Congestive heart failure, or I will often get constriction because of pneumonia or something in the chest. Things took a turn for the worse relatively quickly. 1 minute the patient may have been stable, the next minute they weren't. Eight of Wands is rapid change and conflict. Excuse me. I got a frog in my throat. It's rapid change and conflict. Hopes and fears to be victorious. And then the final outcome is... Honestly, I think she was a non-compliant patient. I think that she had chronic illness. She was a non-compliant patient. Just feels to me like they're writing the report here. This is like posthumous report. There's they say no criminal investigation because it was not a criminal death. The death was not criminal caused. I couldn't figure out why they were saying, well, is there going to be a criminal investigation? I couldn't figure out why they were saying it, but now I look at these cards, I see why. Because if you're the nurse and you've got a non-compliant patient who's sitting there saying, no, leave me alone, I will not take my meds. And you're like, you got to take these meds. And oh my God, you're putting me in a situation now. Oh my God, my patient. You're going to be calling your supervisor. You're going to be filing a report saying the patient refuses to cooperate. You've got to watch your tuchus so that you don't get sued by family members. She had a daughter, for example. Her daughter's going to come in and sue you, right? So how my feeling goes when I look at these cards is that there was a refusal to comply with taking of the medication. She felt constricted in her chest. She was very, very uncomfortable. She might have been disorganized and felt like the nurse was causing the problem. No, that stuff is the cause. No, this is the stuff that's helping you. So we have this conflict. Eight of Wands can be a conflict, strife, and it can also be a situation that happened really, really quickly, some kind of situation with a dark-haired woman, right? She had a feeling of being abandoned, perhaps towards the end of her life. Five of Pentacles is to be in exile. Perhaps she felt like, it's a terrible feeling to feel you're dying alone. And then we have this medical condition event that happens, possibly a heart attack or something like that. And then whose ass is on the line? How did your patient die? So now we've got, shoot, I did everything in my power. She pushed away the medication. She threw out her applesauce. I couldn't restrain her. Right? So then you've got the expert is going to have to go and answer all these questions about how this patient died on her watch. And that enters the Eight of Pentacles, which is the master coming in and having to write the report. So that is where my head goes as I look at these cards. This is something I've noticed working with seniors in hospitals, in hospice, is that they often become disoriented and confused and paranoid as part of their condition, and begin to believe that the healthcare providers are trying to kill them and giving them poison and everything else. And if you don't get that medication into them, particularly if they have a serious heart condition or something like that, if they're refusing to take the medication, that in and of itself can induce a heart attack, particularly if you're talking about something like a beta blocker. I don't know what happened to my tissue. My tissue went missing. Wow. Yeah, so that's what we see there. Okay, Russian troops on Estonian border today. What do you guys think of that? I didn't show my... Oh, there it is. All right. Does Russia have the ability to fight? It looks like Russia doesn't even have much of a military left, do they? All right, Russian troops. Ethics. Taking the weapons of war away from the enemy, Five of Swords. Confusion. They don't know what they're doing there. He's pushing for a peace treaty. He's constantly trying to scare... He's trying to scare the NATO into a peace treaty. Six of Pentacles. You know, but it's interesting that you've got a Seven of Cups there. I don't think the troops even know why are we in Estonia. I believe Estonia is a NATO country. So he's trying to threaten a NATO, eventually a NATO. NATO is actively working to take out Putin. We've talked about that. We've talked about that extensively, that the data points to, excuse me, points to him being removed. Too bad I don't have that with me, but we went through this a lot, that we had that. I should probably make sure I've got the copy readily available for people, but is that it? Yeah, that's it. It's just math, you guys. We've done the mathematics on this. This is the math. It's kind of irrefutable. You can't really get away from the math. This is the math. This is the future. I went through this, excuse me. I went through this 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times using computers. And evidently, the State Department, both Biden and Trump agreed on the first three phases. So, and then they wouldn't publicly come out saying it. But I assume if they're following phases 1, 2, and 3, then they would most likely move on to stages 4, 5, and 6 next. The point I'm making is that Putin has to be removed. It's all about the Abraham Accords. It's all about this new trade route. When you throw that kind of money at somebody where you say, hey, would you like an extra $350 billion a year? Do you think that they're going to put up with anybody that's going to get in the way of that? That's another way that you can look at it, is like, would you put up with these guys? If you knew that you were going to make $350 billion off of this deal, what would you do? You would want to get rid of anybody and everybody that interferes with that deal. And right now, Putin is the impediment. He is not the cure. He is the impediment. We had talked in the past about the importance of understanding trade routes, that it's all about the trade, right? It's all about trade. So they're looking at a trade route that would include Israel, West Bank, Gaza, Egypt, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Bahrain. In agreeing not to fight and to make peace with Israel, it would be very. Oh, the United States is also part of it. That is the Abraham Accords. That's the new contract. So it starts. We talked about it starts in Rafah and it starts in North Sinai, Egypt. Egypt has to give us that land because they're going to blow up Gaza. Be educated, people. Do you want to live in a place that's loaded with mines that can go off, blow up, and chemical weapons that can gas you? So the conclusion was that they're going to have to, probably they'll do bombs that can go 60 meters underground, and they're going to blow the entire thing up. That's probably what's going to happen. Because it's dangerous to even go in and try and dismantle. They're booby-trapped. A lot of these mines and underground shafts are booby-trapped, including chemical weapons. So the Gazan people can't go back. They can't rebuild because you don't know if you're going to detonate anything. It's 10 times worse than the weapons they had during the Vietnam War, where people were just going in a rice field and their kids were getting blown up. With all those kids losing limbs, you're going to wind up with the same exact situation if you attempt to rebuild Gaza before you've dismantled the mines, the weapons, etc. So that is why it's so vital to have this deal with Egypt. Gotta get this frog out of my throat. Here's where we're headed. Yeah, so Putin's got to go. Yeah, so no more Putin. So I think they've tried to assassinate him a couple of times, you know. Will Trump help negotiate a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine? Ooh, that I want to know. As long as Putin's there, what do you guys think? Do you think Putin's going to allow that? Don't you think that Trump has given up on Putin? Trump and Putin. Let's take a look at that. Devil's deal. They have some kind of unholy connection, like a cult. They're lovers in a cult. Addiction, codependency, sex addiction. This looks like a sex addiction. If I didn't know who the clients were, I would think that they're involved in a sex addiction, or he is the lover. Putin is the lover of this person, and this person is addicted like the drug. It's like a drug. They need more. They need more. They are the addict. They are. It's like it's a sex cult. Honestly, objectively speaking, I think most readers would say, "Oh, opposition lover, a devil. Your lover is, you're addicted to your lover. This is a sex cult." This is an easy read. Hopes and fears. The love match is in trouble. 6 of Cups is soulmate. My soulmate comes. Final outcome is 2 of Pentacles back and forth. It's like they don't really know what they're doing. Over the love affair, somebody's heart is bending. My heart has turned to another. Trump's heart has turned to another. Where has Trump's heart turned to? If he's no longer lovers of this guy, if his heart is closed, then who's the new man? Who's the new cool guy on the block? Anybody know? Who's the man on the hill, right? Like, who's the star of the show? Who really is the star of the show? Whoever funds Oasis, of course. Whoever funds the Oasis. Whoever funds the Abraham Accords, whoever believes in the Oasis. Who's pushing for the Oasis? Kushner, right? Kushner said, well, let's just put them in the Negev while we blow the whole thing up. Okay, so we have some of the people will be in the Negev. I just wrote the report I showed you guys. That was from the March Negev plan. We have some people, we get them to the Negev while we drop a bomb on this place. And then we have some people in North Sinai. You cannot stay in a war zone with chemical weapons, and whether it's difficult to come to, blame Hamas. Blame Hamas for putting the booby traps and the chemical weapons underneath Gaza City. Don't blame us. Everybody, every expert who's looked at this has said we have to level Gaza, because that's how bad it is. A lot of soldiers have been killed just going in and getting blown up by the booby traps when they go into the tunnels. 150 Hamas leaders, people were killed when their own chemical weapons went off and they gassed themselves. Imagine if they let that off in Gaza City in front of 1 million people. So everybody has to get out, get out, get out. It's the building is on fire. 5 alarm, right? So we got a situation. We got a situation, people. We got a situation here. So everybody goes, we make a deal with Egypt. They open the gate. That's why Trump is going to meet with El-Sisi next week. That's why he went to the doctor to get an all clear that he could fly. That's the real reason he met with them. And now Kushner's idea of let's get them into the Negev, we'll take part of the people and get them over to North Sinai, and the rest have to come into the Negev, because I don't even know if they blow it up, everybody's going to have to be in gas mask, because even the demolition crews could die. So yeah, they're going to make a lot of money. They're going to make a lot of money. But the good news is they cannot, they're not going to take anyone's land. So the policy is that if you own a farm or something in Gaza, it's still going to be your farm, because the rebuild does not involve Gaza proper. That's the other thing that people have to, I don't know if we always explain that to people, but rather ingenious, I must say so myself. It's the perimeter. The zones are the perimeter. This is the subway system, train system. So the land itself, it was developed in a way so no one would lose their land. They have to leave temporarily while the mines are cleared, but then people go in and do the rebuild. But nobody can take your house away or anything like that. So it's not, it's built on the perimeter. This area, by the way, that's the perimeter, is what is called no man's land. So when Israeli troops withdrew in agreement with phase one, they drew back to this no man's land, which is where nobody's living there. It's a 2-mile stretch. And that is where the oasis is going to be built. So it doesn't violate the peace treaty. So no, I don't necessarily see Trump being able to negotiate anything. He's kind of lost his relationship. He's gone off and run off with MBS, right? Let's see if NATO is preparing conflict with Russia. The more you know what those kids are up to, what those kids are up to. But now you know it all. You have power. What are you going to do with it? Seriously. You're part of the 0.00001% that's seen the actual documents. What are you going to do with your power? You know precisely where Trump is headed. He's headed to Gaza. He's headed to Egypt. You know precisely who he's meeting with. He's meeting with El-Sisi. You know precisely why. To open up the Rafah gate and secure 450 square kilometers for people who are displaced to live while they blow up Gaza. You know that in exchange, Egypt's going to make billions of dollars, that many Egyptians will be employed during the rebuild and setting up a new lands for people in North Sinai, including the building of the subway, which will also supply work for Gazans and Egyptians. And you also know that Egypt's going to get a piece of the pie for the drilling of oil off the coast of Gaza. And you know about the Abraham Accord. So basically, you know it all. Isn't that fun? To know it all. Makes you special, doesn't it? All right, NATO and Russia. We're moving faster towards phase 4, which is the dismantling of Putin, right? Trapped, cornered, desperate. A new contract. Hopes and fears, financial investment. It was a financial investment that went wrong with Ukraine. Russia is going to be abandoned. Nobody believes in the project anymore. Nobody believes in Putin anymore. Nobody believes that Putin can do what he said he was going to do when he was stoned off his rocker on speedballs supplied by Prigozhin. Yeah, we know about that too. You guys know about that, right? That Prigozhin was the drug supplier for Putin. That Putin was shooting up speedballs. That Prigozhin was able to get away with what he got away with because he had a secret. How did Putin deal with the betrayal and the secret? Had him assassinated. But what happens when you're stoned on amphetamines, and you're already a narcissist, you become a megalomaniac from hell. And that's what happened to Putin. And nobody believes in Putin anymore. 5 of Pentacles. The big discussion for NATO right now is, do we have enough to take him out? How long does this go on before we have enough to take him out? Final outcome is they're going to take him out. One of the ways they're taking him out is by creating a rift between Putin and the church. The people of St. Petersburg do not support this conflict. And that if he can no longer get the backing of the church, then he doesn't have anybody. He doesn't have the church. He has no confidence from the church. He has no confidence from the people of Russia. And he has no confidence from his allies. I see a stalemate unless they take him out. 4 of Cups. Grief over the deal. Refusal. 2 of Swords is also like a blocking that you would get. And then the Hierophant is the ethos of for him, it's the Russian Orthodox Church, which up to this point had backed him. The fact that it's with a 5 of Pentacles, I think he could lose his support from the church. One of the subjects that's come up about Trump is whether or not there are other people involved in the Epstein file that could be currently in Congress. And that it's not just Trump that wants to keep those names sealed. That now, I believe it's Murkowski has links to Epstein. Is that correct? So, expose everybody. Expose them all. Let's figure out what's going on with Congress and the Epstein files. Good to see you all here. Ace of Wands, a new beginning starting within 30 days. A desire is health and healing. The hope and the fear to take the weapons of war away from the enemies. And the final outcome is strength. There are enough people that are not compromised in Congress that this story will get out. That's basically what they're saying. There is enough of there are enough good people in Congress that this is going to happen. The bad people will not be able to stop this. Bad things have always happened in America. Horrible things have been done in the dark, right? And so what's happened with cell phones and this period in our history where everything is coming out, everything is being exposed. The good aspect of that is that there are no longer any secrets. And so we are forced to confront ourselves and change. Excuse me. So the takeaway here is that the Epstein files this is part of a spiritual process that we have to go through as a planet where all of our dirty little secrets are coming out. And that is why I say to people, it is wise to not have secrets. It is wise that everything you do in private, you're not embarrassed in public by it. Say one of your private secrets gets exposed, everybody's going to know that you did A, B, and C. You're not embarrassed because you don't do things in private you can't admit to in public. You don't talk about it. Like, who wants to talk about their health issues? Like, if you're having bad digestion. But these are things that all of us go through because we're human beings, right? But I'm talking about if you're engaging in wheeling and dealing with deceptive behaviors, it will come out. So live a clean life, because the transformation, by the way, the nation becomes stronger. You have a strength and death card here. So as difficult as it is for us to come to terms with the fact that our leaders have done these terrible things. Ultimately, it's a healing for the nation. You know, it's interesting that Spirit is using healing imagery to describe what we're going through as a nation with the Epstein. You would expect Page of Swords, which is Archangel Michael, coming on his fiery chariot with that sword to fight. But instead, we have Archangel Raphael comes to meet us. And Raphael is called when a great healing is needed. And we have strength. So now is the time to pray for unity, a more perfect union. And if you are an American, do what we can to strengthen the state. And when we talk about strengthening the state, we mean all the components of the state, which means that everyone who's an American citizen is part of the state. And if anyone is unhappy in the state, that weakens the state. Anybody is unjustly imprisoned, that weakens the state. Anyone can't pay their rent, that weakens the state, or can't feed their children, or properly educate their children. All of these blemishes weaken the state. It is our job to serve the state and to strengthen the state through volunteer work, serving in the military if you can, right? Those of us who have been able to serve. I know Debbie served for a very long time. I believe Joel has served. Thank you for your service. But there are other ways that we can serve the state, right? Through volunteer work or caring for those more vulnerable. All of these things are considered, you know, if you read the writings of Confucius, Confucius talks about balancing things and strengthening the state for the good of the people. And that's really the way we have to think, not just take. What's in it for me? What's America going to do for me? What can I do to strengthen the state, to make the country I live in a great country, to help this country be the country that I imagine it can be? And that is where we're moving towards. By the way, those are both major arcana cards too as the outcome. Strength, to have strength, and death is a major transformation is upon the nation. So I'm telling you, as painful as it is to find out that our leaders are less than perfect or that our idols have feet of clay, it's ultimately good for the nation. So the coming out of the Epstein files is ultimately going to be good for us as a country. Wow, it's interesting that Raphael came because so many people have been hurt and traumatized. And so many people have been hurt and traumatized by the choices and actions of our government, right? Because it was our government that allowed this man to walk in 2004 so that he could go out and create more victims. Our government did that. Our government aided and abetted in the rape and genital assault of hundreds of innocent people, children. And so the only way we're going to get past this and heal as a state, as a nation, is we have to acknowledge that our intelligence agencies did this, that they're currently covering their own crimes up and the crimes of their buddies, and that this process that's taking place is ultimately, as painful as it is, necessary for the healing of the nation. Yeah. Difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to look at those things. Well, Jack Smith's evidence on January 6th riot resulted in many convictions of GOP members. You know, this is the thing, you know, where is our intelligence agencies that they did not protect us from the man that was responsible for January 6th, that he openly planned this insurrection. People died. People committed suicide as well. And where has the FBI been? Who is this CIA? Who created you? And what is your agenda? Is your agenda to strengthen and keep this a great nation? Or what are you really up to? What are these intelligence? What's their goal? Because it sure as hell doesn't look like they're protecting our children from pedophiles. All right, January 6th riots. GOP members of Congress. What's going to happen? Justice will come. The Constitution, you think about how much Washington and Adams and Monroe, you think about all these amazing people that they worked so hard. They gave their lives to the state to create a more perfect union. They really wanted to create a utopia that the people could rule themselves without a king. The brilliance of John Adams and Abigail Adams. Abigail Adams may have been even more brilliant than John. You see some of what she wrote, and she heavily influenced the Constitution, but few people know that. They were really trying to create a utopia, and it was supposed to be a utopia for men and women, equality, right? That was Abigail Adams. Do not forget the ladies, John. Right? So they were really building something extraordinary and giving their lives to something truly remarkable. The Constitution is the law of the land. It is the hierophant anytime you ask about the government. Right? So we think about the law of it's not a guru, it's not a president. We're not that kind of a country. Ultimately, it's this living document known as the Constitution. That is our hierophant. That is our higher ethos. The enemy of the Constitution, foolish behavior, foolish people. People that really don't know their history, people that don't know the history of the Constitution. They don't know who John Adams was. If we don't know our history, we're doomed to forget it. I see this as an Israeli, as an Israeli citizen, as a proud Israeli. I see what's happening to my country. I see the beautiful democratic socialist ideals that are just getting flushed down the toilet. The death of the kibbutz. The kibbutz is privatized, and it was supposed to be this beautiful utopia. It wasn't supposed to be a religious right-wing crazy house, right? So just as Israel is having those challenges, America is having the same exact challenges, which is people are turning towards the church, but the church is not the law of the land, right? The law of the land is the Constitution. But the opposition to the Constitution is foolish people, dumb people, foolish behavior, right? Jim Jordan is the person I think about. People that should have been spending their lives studying the Constitution. Hopes and fears, trying to create an alliance between the stupid people and the people that are not stupid. Joaquin Jeffries is going to be the new Speaker of the House. It's cut. It's decided. Joaquin Jeffries will be the next Speaker of the House. I think if you like Joaquin Jeffries, you're going to be happy. I think if you're not happy with Joaquin Jeffries, you're not going to be happy. I think he's a pretty fair guy. I think his reputation is pretty stellar amongst the Democrats. There's a reason why he'll be, but I see a new Speaker of the House. I feel sorry for Mike Johnson because Mike Johnson is like going to be taken out by, it's almost like flushed down the toilet. He was used horribly. This is what happens when you're not true to yourself. And Mike Johnson has not been true to himself. Goes to conversion therapy to stop being gay, marries the woman that's running the program, is getting together with people on Grindr, right? So the reason why we see a goodbye of Mike Johnson is because he was never true to himself. How strong can you be when you're fighting things that you don't have a conviction of? So I think he does not have complete conviction. if he has this double life where he's presenting as this happy Christian man who no longer is gay with a wife and kids, but he's got all, now it's they're saying that the grinder stuff is true. I guess there's enough proof now. You have to be true to yourself, right? If you're not true to yourself, then you're going to be weak. And that's why I think he couldn't, his job became covering the crimes of a pedophile, right? So all he's doing is protecting Trump. And that's really, so he's at odds with the Constitution. So in going back to the issue of Jack Smith and January 16th, the best solution is sanitation. And that seems to be what they're saying. Raphael keeps coming in. That is the angel that brings healing. So a great healing is upon us. I think that Joaquin Jeffries is going to be the next Speaker of the House. I think that the House no longer has confidence in Mike Johnson. I think that they are possibly he's going to lose to Mike Johnson before even 2026 with this type of juxtaposition. It just takes a couple of GOP people that want to save their reelection to give it to Joaquin. And that's probably what's going to happen. But think about it. Always think about it this way, you guys. I want you to think about it this way. A great healing is upon the nation. Can you guys think about it that way? Because Raphael always comes to bring a great healing. And Raphael was coming in, and he is the outcome, along with Jeffries. Joaquin Jeffries always comes to me as the king of cups. I'm wanting to know a little bit about him. Does anybody know how to spell his name? Joaquin. I like that name. Jeffries. It's a sexy kind of name. Joaquin. How do you say that name? Hakeem. It's a nice name, Hakeem Jeffries. He assumed office January 3rd, 2023. He was born August 4th, 1970, so he's a fire sign. He's a Leo. Yeah. He's going to take over from Mike Johnson. I think so. I'm not seeing a future for Mike Johnson. And I think what ultimately took Mike Johnson out was the fact that he, January 30th. Yeah. Capricorn. I think what ultimately took him out was he wasn't true to himself. Got to be true to yourself, people. You got to be true to yourself. Hello, Anne. Where are you guys coming from? What you eating? What you drinking? Governor DeSantis and wife be indicted in the future over the embezzlement of hurricane funds. Oh my God, I didn't know about that, but thank you, Joel, for asking that. Let's take a look at the future of DeSantis and the hurricane funds. I'm surprised he's able to ship people to other states and not get, why wasn't he charged with kidnapping for some of what he's been involved in? That's what I'd like to know. Ron DeSantis and his wife be indicted over embezzlement of hurricane funds. And the answer is the thief attempts to flee like a thief. Yes, they did embezzle hurricane funds. He's a thief attempting to flee a situation. His opposition regarding this case is gathering evidence against him, dirty family secrets, dark aspect of Ten of Pentacles. It's the inheritance. It sometimes can be inheriting or dirty family secrets like child abuse. That can be something that you inherit. Whispering amongst themselves. Gossiping. Spying in the background, right? So it's an inheritance card, but inheritance can have a dark aspect as well, right? Sometimes we inherit heart disease. Sometimes we inherit, a perverted uncle, right? Like there's so many things you can inherit. But secrets, the family secrets, the gossiping, the spying, what we must not speak about. So he is being investigated because the family has a secret. So there's a secret going on. His opposition regards a secret, the flee attempts to thief, the hope and fear, sobriety. And then the final outcome is evidence. 3 of Pentacles is the blueprint card, evidence mounting against, there's evidence mounting against DeSantis that he is a thief. Star over the DeSantis, opposition, the 10 of Pentacles, 2 of Swords, failure to prosecute, hopes and fears. King of Swords would be the police. And the final outcome is the Queen of Wands. They have a new governor coming into Florida, might be a woman. Outcome is the Queen of Wands. No, they had a failure to prosecute, 2 of Pentacles. So for whatever reason, it's become difficult to prosecute DeSantis over that. And I don't know why. I know. It seems so unfair. It seems so unfair. Well, we're going a long time. Probably because I went on a rant. Okay. So what do you guys think about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant? It's got 2-3 days left before it melts down. Last time we looked at it, experts were coming in and workers were told to evacuate. That is what I saw in the remote, that they were told to get out, and then that they give permission for experts from the Atomic Agency to come in and do what they have to do to stabilize it. That's the most likely outcome. Let's look at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Hanged man. They're going to have to shut the plant down. It's not viable. Opposition, the Queen of Wands. Hopes and fears, Masters. Final outcome, it will be okay. But it's going to be abandoned. It's interesting, Queen of Wands is Ukraine. I think that they wanted the Russians out of there because as long as the Russians were manning the Zaporizhzhia, it was always the fear that it was going to be a dirty bomb, which is why they want it shut down. This is the danger of nuclear power plants. Yeah, I think the experts will come in. They've only got 2-3 days, right? Time to evacuate. What's a fairy tale brownie? Is that the ones that have the psilocybin mushrooms in them? Psilocybin's now becoming legal everywhere because it, for people who are intolerant, who don't, if a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, the SSRIs or other antidepressant medications are not working for you, they're now putting in capsule form micro dosing of psilocybin. So it's not enough to cause a you have to do really high doses to hallucinate. They're just mushrooms, people. But small amounts should make you feel euphoric and happy. And I feel good. I feel like I'm happy. So, yeah. So if you were doing those types of fairy tale brownies, then you should be feeling pretty good. Yeah, she was an amazing actress, but it looks like she was a bit of a pill towards the end of her life. Yeah, it was like a little stubborn there, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I find myself choking more easily. Like as we get older, the muscles in our neck, the throat muscles weaken. And this is why we move people onto soup and dry things like chicken breast or turkey breast that you can choke on. Choking is more common as we age because it's the smooth, all the muscles weaken as we age, including the muscles of the throat. Yeah. She took good care of herself, but according to the remote, she did have some in-home care, so something must have been going on. Yeah. I believe she was a vegetarian most of her life. She was a California, that was the joke about in Annie Hall, where he goes to see Annie and he's having to eat the food. And he's like, I'll take the sprouts and the mashed yeast. It's like a restaurant that Diane Keaton would eat at, right? He's like, I can't believe I'm in this restaurant, and I'm like eating with her. It's like, and that's what he orders so that he can have dinner with Diane Keaton. He orders the sprouts with the mashed yeast. I'll take the mashed yeast. Yeah, she was a known health food person before it was popular. And black soap, he used to make fun of her black soap, right, for washing her face. Because she was shopping at health food stores. That's the charcoal soap. It's supposed to keep it acidic so that you don't get blemishes. Charcoal. Sulfur and charcoal. It's good for the skin. So she was shopping at health food stores and co-ops, right? And she was having sprouts and black soap. And it just that wasn't how you did things in New York back then. She did not have plastic surgery. Yeah, Diane Keaton didn't. And she was criticized a lot for that. And in fact, I think it impacted whether or not she could get roles, because she had that California sun look because she had spent a lot of time sunbathing. And she was pressured quite a bit to have her face done. And she was pretty outspoken about not willing to do that she liked the face that she had. She had earned she felt that she had earned every wrinkle. I earned those wrinkles and you want to take them away? So she had the right attitude. I'm vain. I would love to have the wrinkles taken away. Yeah, she was great. Yeah, so let's talk about Qatar. I think that if they want to continue to plan to exterminate Jews and to continue to be Nazis along with Iran, because you're both Nazis. You've been Nazis for a long time. Then Israel has the right to wipe you off the map. If you continue to organize events like October 7th and brainwash people into believing they're going to go to heaven if they kill Jews, then we reserve the right to erase you. So my advice to Qatar and to Iran is to stop funding terrorism, stop lying to people through social media, through Al Jazeera, stop making it out like you're the victims, and then we won't have to bomb you and beat the crap out of you again. If Qatar wants to continue to exist as a country, you will not participate in anything like October 7th ever again, and you're going to clean up Al Jazeera. You're going to start telling the truth, and you're going to start owning what you did, or you're not going to exist as a country. Let's take a look. Future of Qatar. I think they got scared when Israel bombed them and started killing people. All of the wealthy Hamas terrorists that were happily living in Doha, in Qatar, in 5-star hotels and mansions while people are starving in Gaza because of their actions. Hamas is stealing food and using the people there as human shields because Hamas doesn't care about the people of Gaza. Their mission is to kill all the Jews and from the river to the sea. When someone tells you that they're coming to kill you and they behave like that, you should believe them. But from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free of Juden, raus, Juden, raus, Juden, Juden, raus. Juden comes to raus. That's what they're saying. That's what you're chanting. Jews, come out from your homes. All the Jews must come out of Berlin, out of Frankfurt, right? Out of the ghettos and the shtetls of Eastern Europe, right? We're going to liquidate the Jews, right? Juden rein, Juden raus, comes to raus, Juden, right? So how you translate that into Arabic and how you translate that into Middle Eastern politics is you say from the river to the sea. Achtung, Achtung, from the river to the sea. This area will be Juden rein, will be freed of the Jews. So that is what you're saying. You should just know what you're saying. If you're going to say it, you should know what you're saying. Okay. Qatari base. Future of Qatar is a new beginning is coming for Qatar. A new beginning is coming for Qatar. Whoops. A new beginning is coming for Qatar. So I make sure everything's okay here. Woo! Got a lot of comments. All right, and the opposition is the King of Cups. The hopes and the fears, the devil. And then the final outcome is the 10 of Cups. Happy days are here again in Qatar, but they've got a problem with the devil. They're Nazis. They're anti-Semites, right? So a new beginning of dreams. The opposition, Tower. Interesting. Hopes and fears, the 9 of Pentacles. Qatar is about to lose their wealth. If Qatar does not change their ways, if they do not change their actions or their ways, then the most likely outcome will be the end of Qatar. So it's likely that a military base of Qatar in Idaho will be blocked. Yeah. I think that Qatar's future, how do you get seduced by someone like Hitler, right? How does that, there isn't a single country that's currently voting in the UN against Israel. These Arab countries, Muslim countries, that has Jews. Think about that. No Jews allowed. Where are the Jews of Iraq? Where are the Jews of Iraq? Juden raus. Kommst du raus, Juden, right? They were driven out after they joined with Hitler. They drove all the Jews out. No more Jews in Iraq. Where are the Jews of Syria? Where are the Jews of Syria? They've been driven out. Juden raus, kommst du raus, Juden, right? Where are the Jews of Morocco? No more Jews allowed in Morocco. Driven out. Where are the Jews of Yemen? Klaus kicked them out. Where are the Jews of Egypt? Raus, right? Comes to raus. What about Algeria? There used to be Jewish villages. Where are they? They're all gone. Jews out. What about Tunisia? Jews out. So there's a pattern forming. And what's the pattern? They're Nazis. Are they voting in the UN? Yes. So who's occupying who? Who's stealing, who's driving who out, right? So Lebanon, where are the Jews of Lebanon? Oman, where are the Jews of Saudi? Where are the Jews of Saudi? Muhammad, peace be upon him, married a Jewish woman, Khalifa, right? Lots of Jews in Saudi during the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Where'd they go? They forcibly converted or were driven out? So that's the problem with the UN. There's your answer. That's why the countries voting in the UN shouldn't be voting in the UN, because they're Nazis. And Nazis shouldn't be voting in the UN. And Nazis who've engaged in genocide against the Jews should not be blabbering about genocide just because they lost the war that they started when they attacked us. See how simple that is? Nine of Wands, defensiveness by Qatar. There's Israel. High Priestess is my Israel card. The Torah. White and blue. Hopes and fears. Final outcome. They fear the consequences. I think that when Israel bombed Qatar, it scared the hell out of them, because we could be the next Gaza, right? If you participated in October 7th, we will come for you. Israel will come for you. We will deal with you. You don't kill our children. You don't rape our children. You don't rape our women and men. And if you do it, there will be consequences for the things that you have done. We will take care of you. So don't do it. But this Nine of Wands over Qatar tells me that they are terrified of the consequences of what they have done. The UN is a joke. They refuse to even acknowledge that Hamas is a terrorist organization. What does that tell you about these countries? If your human rights record is 148 out of 148, do you really care about anybody? I mean, come on. You certainly don't care about women. And your track record of anti-Semitism pretty much speaks for itself. Where are the Jews of Algeria, by the way? Used to be synagogues in Algeria. Used to be Buddhist temples. Where are they now? All gone. Because you're the problem. People, there's a lot to learn, and a lot of people don't want to learn. That's the problem. Okay, let's see. Mike Johnson's tried to make a deal with Democrats to restore healthcare funding in exchange for a few of them not voting to release the Epstein files. No, the Epstein file is getting released. That's inevitable. Yeah, I think when I went into this energy, I felt that Trump had to get the okay because of his medical problems before taking a major flight. He needs to come in. We just want to, if we're a doctor, we want to check his blood flow, his Doppler, see if he's at risk of clots, make sure he's on a good blood thinner, which is probably why his hands are bruising. Because of fear of clots. Why is everybody so upset about this? Like, why is he lying about being on blood thinners? You should be on blood thinners if you've got this type of medical condition. You have to be on blood thinners. And you have to be checked before you take a flight. I mean, like, why is anybody surprised by this? Trump's cards at this time regarding his trip. First card is the devil. The problem with Trump is that his addictions and eating junk food and his playing with pharmacologicals, his drug use, that's ultimately, there's his trip. There's his health. Archangel Raphael moves into 9th position. You guys, it's going to get to a point where he can't travel. He's 80 years old with serious medical problems. Should he be flying? Or they can give him blood thinners and monitor that. But ultimately, it's really not healthy to be flying all over the place when you've got these kinds of medical problems. I do like the fact that we're moving towards peace in the Middle East through the Abraham Accords. And I do like the fact that if it wasn't him, it would be Joe Biden going to Cairo right now, or Sharm el-Sheikh, or wherever they're going. A president would be going right now. I know we don't like Trump, but the bottom line is that we need, after the ceasefire, we need an American representative to go there, particularly if we're talking about the rebuild and we're talking about the Abraham Accords. If it was Joe Biden, that would be great, but unfortunately it's not Joe. If it was, I voted for Kamala Harris, it would have been deeply moving for me to see a woman in that position in the Middle East, given the history of the Middle East and discrimination against women. I'm a radical feminist. I wasn't a radical feminist until I moved to Israel, and then I saw so much discrimination against women in Israel by ultra-Orthodox Jews and also by other people, Muslim extremists, other just regular jerks in the world. It's just a very sexist part of the world. And but yeah, I'm a radical feminist, so it would have soothed my wounds to see in a nation like Cairo, where 80% of the women have been circumcised and fibulated in the villages. It's still going on in Cairo. People are in burqas. Horrific human rights violations taking place against women every day in Egypt, but nobody cares when the victim is a woman, right? So it would have been really meaningful for me to see Kamala Harris there, but unfortunately now we have the Donald. Smooth waters. I feel like this trip is going to be very fruitful with Egypt. There's El-Sisi. Archangel Michael comes, the sword of truth. I think it will be a successful trip, that Trump will get help America broker a deal between Egypt and the Abraham Accords. And I think that Egypt will make a lot of money off that deal. So that's good. That's good. Trump will be fine on this trip, but I don't anticipate him being able to stay in office for much longer because of controversy and because of health challenges. So I don't think that he's going to be able to stay, Trump. Hegseth, I'm surprised that guy is even there. He doesn't have the Hegseth doesn't have the resume to be there, to be honest with you. There's Hegseth. But people are resisting Hegseth in a really big way. People do not like this guy. They don't feel he represents the military. Ooh, there's a big expose or something coming out, and it has something to do with the hidden is going to be revealed regarding the King of Pentacles. Wow, I wonder what that's about. Somebody building up dirt on Hegseth? I hope so. New contracts for Hegseth, opposition, karma, hopes and fears that, see, he's afraid he's going to be betrayed by somebody close to him with the Ten of Swords. Sobriety is alcoholism. You know, sobriety, temperance is the temperance, you know, being able to control. Somebody's going to betray him. Because Ten of Swords is about being stabbed in the back, and High Priestess is about the truth coming out. And Temperance is about sobriety. Final outcome is the King of Cups. There's an expose coming out about him, and the expose is that he's the King of Cups. He's in his cups. He's an alcoholic. We all know he's an alcoholic. Let me do one clarification card over that. Grief in his cups. The extent of his drinking problem will be exposed. Also, he's engaged in domestic violence. Treasure trove. They're building a ton of evidence against him. He's about to be exposed. That's what I would say about Hegseth right now, you guys, is that he's about to be exposed. Yeah. Oh, I see people celebrating. Did everybody have a good Sukkot? The Feast of Tabernacles? Did you all enjoy the fruits that you harvested? So Sukkot is also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, and it is the time when we build little tiki lounges. We put up little fronds, and it's one of my favorite holidays. And we eat outside, which I absolutely love the smell of the Sukkot because its fruit is hanging, and you can smell the apples and things. And we eat apples and honey, and it's just a harvest festival. People used to do this when we would harvest our wheat and stuff. You would build tents. You would build temporary structures in the field where the workers would sleep. And that way you would get up early. You wouldn't have to like march back to the house or something like that. You would be able to just sleep right there in the area, and then you could get up. They would light torches, and sometimes even farm at night, depending, you know, if you're trying to get your harvest in. So that's the history of Sukkot. So right now we are celebrating the first year's fruits, right? So when we talk about Rosh Hashanah, we're not talking about the Jewish, it's actually Adar, which is the first month, which happens sometime around spring, March, or early March. But this is a replication. We do a replication every year of the little tiny huts we used to put out in the field that we would sleep in. And then before the sun comes up, we would get up and, you know, start working in the field. So that is a sukkah, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles. Yeah. All right, I think we've had fun today. We've had to block some people who made some offensive statements about some stuff that they didn't know anything about, but that's okay. Yeah, did y'all have fun? Oh, he's still using Signal. I don't know. It sounds so crazy. Oh, the Abraham Accords. The money is coming from the Abraham Accords. It's an investment into future trade. Raymond Abraham. Well, that's why you have to go with the Abraham Accords, because the Abraham Accords rejects that. And the premise of the Abraham Accords was to build oasis zones, which is tolerance. The whole premise was tolerance. Because men get sexually frustrated and they need to control sex. A lot of it is just sexual domination. They have to get the sex. And so if you can hold a woman hostage so she can't get out, and then you can get access to this thing you want, which is the sex. So women, if you look at the Bible and if you look at religious writing, it was always from a male perspective, and it was always to benefit the man in terms of access to sex and reproducing children. But it was never from the perspective that women were people. Women are not seen as people. If you look at Talmudic law, women are separate. We are not people in the technical sense of the world. I mean, there's references to the Talmud where women are basically slaves. I mean, if you look at Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, it's basically saying the best wife is the one that's a slave. And it's read every Friday night by Jewish men to their wives if they're Orthodox. But what it really is it's just, I need you to be a slave. I need to have access to you sexually whenever I want it. I need to get that access. And I also need you to bring me some money. So I need exclusive access to sex, and I need you to get me that money. So if you were to change the word woman into black man, then you would understand how offensive it is for me as a woman to hear this every Friday night, right? But every Friday night, this is what an Orthodox Jewish man prays for. And that's the problem with religion. An accomplished woman, who can find? You know, it's really hard to find an accomplished woman. Now, change that to a black man. An accomplished black man, who can find? It's really hard to find a black man that's accomplished. So the poem immediately starts off being offensive, right? It's rare to find a woman who's accomplished. An accomplished woman, who can find? Her value is far beyond rubies. I'd pay a high price for that female. Her husband's heart trusts in her, and he lacks nothing valuable because she's going and giving him the money. He's pimping her out. She brings him good and not harm all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax, and her hands work willingly. She's a compliant slave. She is like merchant ships bringing her sustenance from afar. So she's busting her ass to wheel and deal. She rises while it's still night. She isn't getting a decent night's sleep. She has no self-respect. She doesn't think in terms of her self-care. She's there to serve you. So she's going to get up while it's still night. She provides food for her household. He doesn't have a job. His job is to manage her. His job is to manage the slave. Right? So his slave gets up while it's still night, and then it's her job to provide food for him and for the kids. Then she portions for her servant girls. Then he's got more slaves, more girls. Who owns the sexuality of the servant girls? Whoever owns the servant. So this is why Sarah can tell Abraham to go have sex with Hagar, because her vagina is the property of Sarah. And then she got uppity, right? She started thinking that she was an equal, and that's why Sarah kicked her out, right? She considers a field and buys it. So she's buying stuff, she's wheeling and dealing. From the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. So she's also planting vineyards, she's wheeling and dealing, she's making clothes, she's feeding her household. She girds herself with strength. She just loves being a slave and invigorates her arms. She discerns that her business is good. Her lamp never goes out at night. So she works from the sun going down till before the sun comes up. She extends her hand to the spindle, and her palm grasps the spinning wheel. She spreads out her palms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her house. Her whole household is clothed in scarlet wool. Well, when did she have time to do that? She makes her own luxurious coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Oh my. Her husband is respected at the city gate. So that's her husband's job. He sits at the city gates enjoying all of this because he's got a really good slave. When he sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them and gives him the money and supplies sashes to the merchants. Strength and dignity are her clothing. And she laughs at the days to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, a lesson of kindness in her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness, so she never has a day off. She works on Shabbat. In fact, Shabbat is the hardest day of the week for an Orthodox Jewish woman. She has no Sabbath. She must feed them. She must care for them. She must serve them and prep the table and prep the food and serve the food and take the food away and wash the dishes for the next meal. And all of that's work. She will have no day of rest. Her children arise and bless her. Her husband also praises her. Many daughters have excelled, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears God will be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands. Let her deeds be her praise at the gate. So basically the message to Orthodox Jewish women is that you should be selfless, never think about yourself, and all you do is work and then you die. So there you go. That's why I became a feminist after putting up with that crap for years. I used to be Orthodox. Did a lot of damage, did a lot of it caused a lot of psychological damage. A lot of therapy. Yeah, so. All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming in. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, you can find all that information below. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. And we will see you all next time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your support. All right. Bye.